definitely the warm-up phase is super important. Try to follow a routine for that. Then plug in 2 to 3 different sets of exercises. So for example, you could do leg yields, you could do snowman, you could do transitions. If you're more advanced, maybe you're doing half passes or flying changes. Lots of walk breaks between each of those sets, and then a cool down. Hello, in this video we are talking about how to plan your ride. I get requests for this all the time because everyone wants to know, how should I plan my ride? What should I do? So in today's video, I'm going to take you through a ride and help you kind of break it down into chunks so that you understand where to start and then how to plan your ride. If you need more help, check out the description box and sign up for my ride along podcast. People have been loving these. So when you sign up, you get instant access to 7 pre-recorded audio files that you can play while you're riding. So this is really great because it helps you apply what you're going to learn in today's video. And next time when you ride, you'll have a plan for your ride. So the first phase of riding any horse, and probably the most important, is the warm-up phase. So I've already warmed up, but basically your warm-up should involve quite a bit of walking, anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes of walking. With Uma here, I usually let her walk on a loose rein like this for about 5 minutes. Then I take up the contact and do some serpentines and some leg yields. I'll put in some clips from the previous video I did with her today where I was talking about the warm-up. If you can, just allowing your horse to walk on a loose rein, at least for the first 5 minutes or so, that's a really great way to just let you and your horse get warmed up. And while you're walking, check in with your position. So get your eyes up, stretch up through your upper body, lengthen through your lower leg, and incorporating serpentines and circles and bending lines. That's really going to help them to get warmed up. Good girl, mama. Good girl. Good girl. And then keep checking in with your position again. So after your serpentine, check your position. Good girl. Okay, so we've done walking on a loose rein. Tip number 2, we've done walking some serpentines. The third thing is that when I start out in the trot, I let her trot a little bit slower and smaller. So Uma here, she's got still a pretty big fancy trot in her. But since she's a little bit older, I really want to give her that time to just start out in a little bit of a slower, smaller trot. And I let her stretch a little bit down in the trot to start with. But I just think about steady tempo, steady contact, as long as your horse is in front of the leg. So as long as you don't feel like you're having to kick your horse all the time, it's okay to let them start out in just a little bit of a slower trot. Good girl. And another thing I want to point out is that for older horses, very tight turns are hard on them. So with Uma, when I start her out, I start out with more straight lines in the trot, diagonals, and I just let the trot be very normal, very small. Again, because I really want her to have the time to get the blood flowing, to stretch through her body and her top line. And the warm-up is different for every horse, but what's important about the warm-up is, number 1, that you follow the same format or the same routine. So you figure out what works for your horse and then follow that. Some horses need some groundwork as part of the warm-up. Some horses need more transitions. Just kind of figure out what works best for your horse. But step number 1 is the warm-up. By the end of your warm-up, your horse should feel relaxed and supple. So sometimes your warm-up might only take 15 minutes. Sometimes it might take the whole ride to get through the warm-up. Now for the working phase part of your ride, with Uma, I'm going to divide it into 3 segments. So the warm-up phase, I would say if the warm-up phase takes 20-25 minutes, then when I start doing the work phase, I think about doing 2 to 3 sets of different exercises. So for those of you who go and work out at the gym, it's kind of like that, where you pick a few exercises, you do sets with walk breaks in between. The first exercise that I'm going to do with Uma today are trot-canter trot transitions. And trot-canter trot transitions are a great exercise to get a little more connection, to make sure that your horse is on the aids, and to continue working on suppleness. So I'm just going to start on a circle, and I'm going to practice a couple trot-canter trots in both directions. I like to use trot-canter trot transitions to get my horse on the aids. A girl thinking about the rhythm, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. What I'm looking for in my transitions, the first thing is a good reaction to a soft aid. So for example, for my canter transition, I really want to just feel like I can half halt and ask. Good girl. That was a super reaction to my aid. The second thing is that she stayed in a nice frame. She stayed nice and round. And then the third thing is my position stayed correct. I didn't feel like I got out of balance. Good girl. So let's see, I did 3 to the right. I'm going to do 3 trot-canter trot transitions to the left. Good girl. And then I'm going to give her a walk break. Good girl. And, you know, play out. You'll have to adjust your ride based on your horse. Uma's a little bit of an older horse, and so I do tend to do like a little segment of work and then a walk break. Rhythm, rhythm, rhythm. I lost a little of the suppleness in that upward transition. Good girl. Trot. Ooh. Good girl. Half halt. Good girl. Good girl. So I'm pretty happy with that set of exercises. The trot-canter trots were quite good in both directions. Trot. Good girl. So make sure that you do a good downward transition. It's really important that you don't let your horse just collapse and pull on you. Get them carrying themselves and then give them a walk break. Good girl. So we've had our warm-up phase. We've done the first set of trot-canter trot transitions. If you're not ready for trot-canter trot, you could modify and just do, say, trot-walk trot transitions. The next exercise I'm going to do with Uma is walk-canter walk transitions. Again, that's a more advanced exercise. So walk-canter walk is an exercise that works on collection. If you're not ready to do collection, some modifications is you could do the snowman exercise, or you could do trot-walk-trot transitions, or you could do a serpentine. So basically you plug in different exercises based on what your horse needs. For Uma, she's a FEI horse, so she needs to get a little bit more engaged, a little bit more on her hind leg. And so I like to practice walk-canter walk transitions as a way to get a bit more collection into her canter. And so same thing, I'm going to take up the contact and I'm going to do a couple walk-canter transitions. Good girl. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Think about I'm putting the weight a little more back on her hind leg. I need to keep the energy there. Good girl. Good. And walk. Use your seat. Shoulder 4. Good. And as the rider, you're thinking, every time you repeat a transition, how can you improve it? How can you make the next transition better? Good girl. So in the downward transition, I tend to come a little forward off my seat, and she tends to want to pull a little bit on me. So for the next transition, I'm going to really think about sitting a bit more back onto my pockets, so leaning onto my pockets and keeping her in shoulder in. Good girl. So for the interest of this video, I'm going to move on to phase 3, but I would have repeated a couple more canter walk canter transitions until they were kind of perfect. We do another quick walk break, and then the last exercise that I'm going to do with her today are some trot leg yields. And same thing, I'm going to repeat a couple times in each direction. Good girl. Always thinking about the basics. And if at any point one of my exercises I feel like I've lost her, like I feel like I've lost the suppleness, I've lost the relaxation, I just go back to the warm-up. So I might go back to, you know, letting her walk on a loose rein for 5 minutes or doing a little bit more of a stretch. Good girl. With most of my horses, I like to do the canter work first. So I do my warm-up and then I do the canter work first and then the trot work at the end. I feel that most of my horses warm up a little bit better in the canter. I feel a bit more comfortable in the canter. I do have some horses, like my horse Kensington, he likes to do trot work first. So let me know in the comments if your horse likes to do trot or canter first. Sometimes if you have a horse that's a little bit slow to warm up, doing some canter work in the beginning can be a good way to help get your horse warmed up. Good girl. It's also important as you think about planning your ride that you want to work your horse evenly to the left and to the right. So if you repeat the leg yield 2 times on the left, you want to repeat it 2 times on the right. Good girl. And then at the end, I usually let my horses stretch a little down. Don't let them pull. Self-carriage, rhythm. Good girl. Good girl. And walk again at the end. Good girl. So this was kind of a fast forward ride, but that just gives you an idea of some things to think about. Definitely the warm-up phase is super important. Try to follow a routine for that. Then plug in 2 to 3 different sets of exercises. So for example, you could do leg yield, you could do snowman, you could do transitions. If you're more advanced, maybe you're doing half passes or flying changes. Lots of walk breaks between each of those sets and then a cool down. Don't forget to check out in the description box and sign up for my ride along podcast. I have a bunch of different ones in there that focus on different things. So things like rider position or suppleness or connection, whatever you're struggling with, you could just listen to that and then I'll guide you and give you a bunch of exercises for your next ride. So that's a really great way if you don't have a trainer, if you ride alone a lot, to have a voice in your head kind of coaching you through your ride. I love having lessons. I feel like it's so helpful just to get those reminders and to have someone else giving you some structure. So I hope you like this video. Give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.